Hey, my name's Max. I write poetry. My poetry has been published in little magazines, in big magazines, everything in between. And I also run my own poetry journal, The Pierian. I have an MFA in creative writing from Emerson College. And this is my passion. This is something I love to do and I love to talk about. Let's look at some poems today together and let me lend you my expertise so we can try to figure out what's going on with poems of different quality and see if we can figure out how to spot ChatGPT poems. I've also thrown in a sprinkling of poems from Reddit so we can get this idea of kind of what's distinctly human and what's going to be very clearly computer generated. So I'm going to read the poem, and I'm going to give you a moment to think about, and then we'll discuss what I think and why I think it's going to be one source or another. Okay? Unknown. Consumed by the silence of our eyes meeting, my heart awakens to you like it once did. In this moment, I want to learn again about the person you are changed from the person I once held. Can we fall in love again? So go ahead, take a moment. You can pause the video and think about it. But also, while if you don't want to pause, you want to hear some questions I have about this poem. Look at this comma here of our eyes meeting, comma. My heart awakens, comma, to you like it once did. I'm not sure all of these commas are grammatically necessary. Certainly this first comma is not grammatically necessary. Consumed by the silence of our eyes, meaning there's no comma between silence and of in this case. There's also should be no comma, my heart awakens to you. There should be no comma here. The enjambment is sufficient to give us tension. This comma is erroneous. See how this line ends with did. We end with are here. These are weak ways to end a line. An experienced poet probably wouldn't do that. I don't think this is computer generated just because computers don't make these types of errors, at least not these days. So we put that all together. We're looking at a Reddit poem. Let's go on to the next. On to the next. A method. In the stillness of my mind, I find a place to unwind, a sanctuary of sorts where my thoughts can cavort. Sorts and cavort, that's a little bit of a stretch. I let my guard down as my emotions surround in this intimate space I'm allowed to embrace. Look at all these end stops. Stillness of my mind, end stop. I find a place to unwind, and comma. A sanctuary of... Why no enjambment? So this is deliberately limited and kind of stilted both in its diction. Using cavort like this is extremely forced just to get the rhyme with sorts, but that doesn't even work. This inversion, emotions surround what as my emotions surround me? I mean, it's just really awkward. I think we can all agree that this isn't the type of thing that a Redditor would write. It's also not something that a publishing poet would write. It's just awful, quite frankly. So, reveal alert. This is ChatGPT. I asked it, I gave it a prompt. What I said is write a poem in a fresh contemporary style that is intimate, surprising, and profound. It's not really intimate. In the stillness of my mind, I mean, it's a very cliche way to open. I find a place to unwind. That's also... We need to choose a topic that isn't just about writing poetry itself. We need to choose a topic that lets us, some challenge, some difficulty, some heightened lyric experience. All right. Let's look at this poem. Prayer. Over the years, a man forgets his wife's beauty, finds himself spellbound by the face of another, less beautiful woman. This is like one to whom prayer has become a habit. So I think technically we could look at the way that this qualifying phrase, less beautiful, is deployed, and it's done very correctly. The comma here is all these commas are correct. By the face of another, look at this delayed, less beautiful qualifier, woman. It's just a devastating line here. This pivot, this often would be called a volta. If this were a son, it would definitely be a volta, but it's kind of volta-like. We introduced this comparison very late in the poem. This is like one to whom prayer has become a habit. This to whom is not something you're likely to see. Who and whom is not something a lot of Redditors understand how to use correctly, so that rules out Reddit. This could be computer generated, but it's simply just too surprising. This volta is too surprising. A computer is not going to be able to come up with this. This is a published poem. Indeed it is. Yeshua November, excellent work. Just fine writing, published in Thrush. You could go over to Thrush right now and have a look and support Thrush. Okay, let's have another. We sat in a park, far later than we used to. We drank and smoked and laughed. How weird is it, you would cry out. We are so much older. I sorrowed over a fractured thought and collected my tears into the bottle and drank it again. Look at this wood. I'm not sure why this wood is in this tense. You cried out. It's past tense before. We sat in a park far later than we used to. This is also grammatically incorrect. We sat in the park until later than we used to. I mean, I believe it's a little bit of an informal or incorrect usage. Not that I'm like the grammar police here, but dangling this used to at the end of the line is just a weak way to end a line. This line, it's funny, but it's good. This doesn't even make any sense. How weird is it? You cried out. Putting this is very kind of self-conscious to do this at this point in the poem. It's a critical moment in the poem to kind of anchor the poem around this. How weird is it? Is kind of showing that you really don't have any other way to try to make your overture to the reader, but this kind of self-conscious kind of weirdness of poetry. Perhaps you're uncomfortable, you're not comfortable as a writer yet. This line I think is better. I sorrowed over a fractured thought. But this whole poem is so fractured. By the time we get to this fractured, we've already experienced so much fracture that this is a lot weaker than it otherwise would be in a poem that's stronger. And that's better lineated and does less weird stuff. Also, it's kind of cry for help. The substance abuse angle makes it just, as you could guess, we are talking Reddit all the way, baby. Okay. Let's look at another Diaspora Son at 28. Again, the title gives us a lot of clues here. But I see my father kneel in tenements and public spaces, places where he declares our generous hungers. There the lilies dry in the sun, breathless, desiccating mouths tilting downward toward the red marrow floor. So again, we could look at how this is structured into these couplets that are fairly tight and effective. The use of enjambment here keeps the momentum going. We have a midline caesura, which is a pause in the middle of this line here that's relatively effective. There, the lilies is not the strongest second half of a line, but this is a very minor, very, very minor issue. I don't think it really is detracting anything from this poem. The imagery really amplifies the emotions and brings us into this kind of high register of kind of someone who's extremely paying a great amount of attention to their feelings, sensations, observations in a way that almost normal people are kind of almost incapable of doing. Generous hungers is kind of oxymoronic in a way. It's very interesting. Desiccating, I'm not so sold on, but again, I mean, in the context of how successful this language overall is, I'm going to give it to them. We really have to be dealing with a professional poet, or at least a very, very skilled, trained poet, when we start to put together all these different things. Again, the attention to detail and the word choice, the red marrow floor here, you have to think if you've cooked meat, it's not red anymore. So the only way you're going to be able to see the red marrow is you're seeing something that's fractured. Remember how this poet up here tried to give us this fractured thought? Well, this fracture, this sense of fracture here is actually embodied in the poem, in the text of the poem, in the image, and is vivid and immediate and visceral and painful. So it's kind of more like a direct hit on the reader. It's scoring a point here. The reader has to acknowledge that they're reading someone who has great poetic force, talent, and is marshaling that toward a successful campaign of showing us something deeply moving and powerful. Witness, Oliver de la Paz, indeed, in the most recent Shenandoah. Very nice work, de la Paz. Beautiful, beautiful work. Okay, let's have another look. The tuning up. Like an old car, love can be rusty. Already right there, I'd pull the plug. This is already pretty much abject failureville. Is it a Reddit poem? I don't know. I've seen some pretty corny stuff on Reddit. Could be forgotten in some distant memory. Now, this rhyme again, rusty and memory, starting, spidey senses tingling, guys. It may start with a hesitant ignition, but the journey is worth the decision. It's this tendency to kind of summarize and give us the moral of the story, kind of like picture booky type stuff, children's booky. But the and these full stops again, full stop, full stop, full stop, full stop, all the way full stop. There's no enjambment used here at all. It's very banal, very shop worn. So you think you want to pause, you can, but I think you know where I'm going. ChatGPT. I tried to steer ChatGPT, and people know about prompts and want to send me some idea of how to prompt ChatGPT to generate different stuff. But I thought, hey, maybe we could have ChatGPT write a poem in the style of Carl Phillips. And I wanted to, Carl Phillips would not write a poem comparing his beloved to an old car, but he might have an old car in a poem, or, a car that his father drove, or something like that. And so that image might occur in a poem. It wouldn't be forced in this way. But yeah, I mean, it can't handle it. Can't handle the truth. Okay, golden hour. Your body is urgent and urging on mine. Outside, a snake slips its skin, leaves the pelt on the porch like ripped up wrapping paper, like our clothes strewn across the floor. Okay, so this is kind of almost spoken wordy quality to this. Leaves the pelt on the floor like ripped up wrapping paper, like. So these two likes here, like and like. It's kind of this double barrel like. But this like is a metaphor for this, comparing the what the snake leaves to a gift, but then it recompares to the act of the lovers. I don't really like this kind of breathless style of poetry, but it's successful at what it's trying to do. So for people who like this type of thing, that again isn't really in my taste. This urgent and urging to me is forced and boring, but it's very successfully doing the type of thing that people love in lyric today. It could be Reddit, I think so. So you need to consider, is this a Reddit poem? I don't know. I think the problem is that it's too technical for Reddit. Porch, paper, see this consonants here. I don't know. Its selection of imagery, its focus on the lovers and their act is something that Reddit poets can't typically accomplish. So we're going to say that this is a published poem, and Armand Avasia indeed put this out in Frontier. This is a lot of the stuff that Frontier likes to publish. So if you like this type of stuff, Frontier is the mag for you. Let's do one more. Off-season tourist. I walked the deserted shoreline, the waves lapping at my feet. Gulls cry overhead, a reminder of the solitude that's sweet. Oh, well, we have enjambment finally. The sand between my soles is soft as I meander along the beach. Seashells crunching underfoot, a symphony of sounds within my reach. It's all incredibly hackneyed. It's so cheesy. It's just dripping with Velveeta action here. Put this sucker in the microwave. You know, I know. We know exactly what we're reading here. Couldn't be anything but, right? Sticks out like a sore thumb. It's ChatGPT. Prompt: write a poem that carefully observes and enacts walking along a closed beach in the late winter. Avoid cliche and rhyme, which you can't do. Do not specifically write about the winter or the fact the beach is closed, which it kind of sort of avoids doing that, I guess, to the best of its ability. What can I say? The technology just isn't there yet. It's gonna get there. It's gotten a long way. It's gonna get better. I'm not dunking on ChatGPT. This is quite an accomplishment that it can do this at all. And you know, these large language models will improve over time, and they'll be able to handle my prompts and other people's prompts more effectively. And you know, I'm not sure why right now it's just fixated on giving us these rhyming poems. Really no idea. You know, could be another one of its famous hallucinations. But hopefully you learned something about, you know, how I approach reading poems, how experienced poets go about, you know, hearing and sounding through some of the things that poems can do. If you have questions about that, or you want me to take a look at something, you know, there's a poem you're interested in, do post up here. Just hit me with a comment, and you know, always let me know what you think. If you have ideas, something you want to do, place you want to go, this is your channel too. Thanks so much for joining me.